Like the stuff.
Let's spend some time with Orlando Sentinel movie critic Roger Moore at the movies.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Good production quality, guys.
Frankly, my dear, on Open Mic.
Roger Moore, the most intelligent and erudite, is that how you say it? Erudite movie critic in the country.
You are a sports writer, aren't you?
How do you say that?
Erudite.
Erudite movie critic in the country, and a man who once personally interviewed Jimmy Buffett. You can read all of Roger's movie reviews in the Orlando Sentinel, or go to his wildly popular Frankly My Dear blog at orlandosentinel.com to read everything Roger has to say about the movies. Roger, before we get started, you ready for your Jimmy Buffett lyric interpretation?
God, you keep doing this.
Here it is. In the song, I Wish I Had a Pencil-Thin Mustache, Jimmy says, I wish I had a pencil-thin mustache, the Boston Blackie kind. Who the hell is Boston Blackie?
Have you looked this up? Is this a rhetorical question?
I do. No, I could Wikipedia it, but I didn't.
No, he was I think it was a serial, movie serial in the 1930s and 40s, and I don't remember if he was a villain and he wasn't really a villain. I think he was just a character in a series of movies, Boston Blackie. But yeah, I can recall maybe seeing one or two of those at some point when American Movie Classics was actually American Movie Classics back in the 80s. But I don't, Buffett was really stretching for that one. He was really stretching for something, because that's about as obscure as it gets. There's a moment on his live album, his 80 or 81 live album, You Had to Be There, where he starts talking about this movie Payday, which is when he lost his virginity or something in a drive-in theater somewhere, and
yeah, great
Mobile or something like that. But Payday was a movie with Rip Torn that virtually nobody's ever seen. It's from the 60s, I believe. But anyway, yeah, he's always pulling up stuff like that. He's sort of a pop culture sponge.
Roger, obviously all the talk this week is about the Oscars. First of all, have you ever been to the Oscars?
No, I've never been.
No?
Never been. I have a couple of friends who went, and they sort of warned me away from it. I mean, it's you want to be able to absorb what's going on there, and when you're covering it, you're actually standing around backstage waiting for them to say stuff that they don't actually have the wherewithal to say when they're actually on stage and the pressure's on them. So it's when you read these backstage comments, it's just like, come on, what they say on camera is what counts, not the backstage pose.
Do you like the Oscars, or as they say about Christmas, do you think they become too commercial?
Too commercial, that's all they are. I'm coming to enjoy them more as the years go on because, among other things, they're a lot more interactive than they used to be. I had to, I live blog the Oscars every year, and I can sit at home in my pajamas with my dog sitting on my feet drinking gin and tonics, watching, waiting for Kevin Spacey to croon a few bars or something, or for Melissa Leo to drop the F-bomb or whatever. And when you're live blogging, you're having an interaction with a lot of other people around the country. There were 40 or 50,000 people tuned into the live blog, and they were all telling me, yeah, Corey Haim got left out of In Memoriam and this and that and the other thing. So, it's a lot more fun like that because you're sort of sharing it with a whole lot, having an Oscar party with a whole lot of other people who are paying attention to the movie or what's going on TV. And not people who are trying to figure out what hors d'oeuvre to eat next.
Here's the big question I have. Was James Franco high?
No, he's like that. I've interviewed him a couple of times. He is a terrible interview. And one of the reasons is that he's a little spacey, and another is he's very guarded. So he's not stupid, and, he always kind of comes off that way. But if you Google his name into, Google image, 99% of the pictures you see of him that are candid, he's just beaming. He has this very sunny personality, and I got the impression that at some point during the weeks leading up to the show, he got slapped down by the fact that he couldn't do a song and dance number with Anne Hathaway. He wasn't good enough. They had a Grease number that was supposedly prepared as a little Grease tribute, and he just didn't have the chops to do it. And not everybody can do a little song, a little dance, and not everybody in Hollywood's a triple threat. So I'm guessing that left him a little chastened, and it looked like the whole show was he couldn't wait to get through it.
Roger, why? It seems like lately every host of the Oscars gets ripped afterwards.
Yeah, it's kind of the fashionable thing to do. I didn't think this was the worst telecast ever. It clipped along. They took away a lot of things that sort of stretched the show out. And if they'd started it at 8 o'clock, which is what they should do now that ABC is beating you to death with 2 hours of pre-show cover, 2.5 hours, they should start at 8 o'clock, 5 o'clock L.A. time, and get people out the door at 11. I mean, that's the way the thing should work. It should work a little bit more like the Golden Globes, but it was a much more interesting show, I thought, than it's been in the last few years, and you just didn't know what was going to happen. Hathaway was okay, and Franco got the crap beaten out of him. And, it's been fashionable to beat up the Oscar host pretty much since Letterman tried it and bombed completely. But I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody more interesting next year take a shot. They tried to get a younger audience and actually paid off for them a little bit. But, they didn't lose as much young audience as they've been losing in years past. And this interactive element to the show with all the tweeting and stuff that's going on. Franco's live tweeting the Oscars, among other things. All that stuff makes it possible to get a younger audience to watch, which is what the advertisers want.
Speaking with Orlando Sentinel movie critic Roger Moore here on 740 The Game, what do you think was the biggest misfire when it came to winning an award at the winning an Oscar on Sunday night?
The thing is, the last 5-10 years, it's become very predictable. Everybody knows the formula. You read the same tea leaves. It's like Golden Globes, Critics' Choice Awards, which is given out by the broadcast film critics, who are very much like the Hollywood, very mainstream oriented. You watch 2 or 3 award shows that play out in late December, early to mid January, and you know who's going to win the Oscar. You have a pretty good idea, and there were no huge surprises. A lot of us thought David Fincher would win for Best Director for The Social Network, which was a real tour de force director's job. But Tom Hooper had won the Directors Guild, and he'd won other awards leading up to it, and you kind of figured, he was probably the favorite, but a lot of us still thought Fincher would win. Other than that, everybody else played out exactly according to script. Natalie Portman's won all the pre-Oscar awards. Melissa Leo's cleaned up at the pre-Oscar awards. Christian Bale and Colin Firth. It was, they all should have been better prepared. Firth was great. I thought Leo considering how many awards she'd won before that and how much she was the favorite, she should have been a lot better prepared and more composed when she was up there accepting that. She was fine though. I mean, it was okay to see somebody sort of spontaneously combust on stage. A little Charlie Sheen moment for her there as she kind of lets the moment overwhelm her. But other than that, no, it was very predictable. The only way people lose Oscar pools now is on the short films and the movies they haven't seen, the little obscure things.
Roger, were you okay with the LeBron James movie, The King's Speech, winning the Oscar?
Yeah, I was fine with that. It's a very mainstream movie. It's very entertaining, and I tell you where, to use a sports analogy, where it's better than The Social Network, which was the Critics' Choice for the Best Picture for most people last year. It had a better bench. You look at The King's Speech, and there are people 5, 6, 7, 8 on the bill who are spectacular, like this Timothy Spall, a wonderful British character actor, plays Churchill. It's just deadly. He's wonderful in it. And Guy Pearce plays the Duke of Windsor. And several, there's probably 7, 8 really good performances in that movie. And in The Social Network, it's basically one performance. It's Jesse Eisenberg and a couple of little bit parts by other actors.
Raj, can you give us real quick? Can you give us a recommendation for a movie this weekend?
There are a couple of movies opening this weekend that are worth seeing. Cedar Rapids, which is probably the first good comedy of the year, the best of the year's new comedies. It's a kind of raunchy film about insurance salesmen gathered for a convention in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And of course, being Midwesterners, Cedar Rapids is a big city where you go and you cut loose. And Ed Helms from The Hangover is in it, and Anne Heche is in it. She's really good. And John C. Reilly, very funny movie, very raunchy, very R-rated. Good teenage date movie to send your kids out to is Beastly, which is an adaptation of Beauty and the Beast, written by a Miami-based young adult author named Alex Flynn, and it stars Alex Pettyfer and Vanessa Hudgens. And it's real cute and real snarky and smart. The dialogue's really snappy, quite good. I was very impressed with that one.
Not a big fan of The Adjustment Bureau?
Not a huge fan of that, but it's Philip K. Dick, so he's a dicey proposition. Anytime you adapt one of his sci-fi short stories into a film, it's going to be a little bit dense and a little bit difficult to get a handle on. And I saw it several weeks ago, and I'm still mulling it over. The thing is, the movie it compares to most readily is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and it doesn't have that movie's whimsy or melancholy. It's not as deep or as sweet. It doesn't leave you with the same aftertaste that movie does. It's more of an action thriller where Matt Damon's this guy being pursued by people who are controlling his life, quite literally. Are they angels? Are they aliens? And he's trying to break his own, their predetermined fate by meeting this girl, Emily Blunt, and they have spectacular chemistry. And it's a wonderful scenes together. But they don't have but a few scenes together before the guys with the hats, who look like extras from the TV show Mad Men, are chasing him down and trying to get him back on the life course that they've determined for him. It's very, very thought-provoking, kind of like Inception in that way, but doesn't quite come off.
Raj, I'm reading OrlandoSentinel.com now. I'm at your Frankly My Dear blog. I'm reading this one entry you have. Tom Hanks is going to be in Disney's Jungle Cruise, or they're trying to make that happen. Isn't he too big for that now?
You know, he's everybody needs something that pushes their quote up, and he hasn't had a big non-animated hit in a few years now. So they're talking to him about it. He hasn't agreed to do it. It does seem like it would be beneath him, and you don't know what they mean by that. I mean, they're saying he and Tim Allen will actually co-star in it because they made $1 billion with Toy Story 3. Well, what are they going to do? Use their voices for animals on the cruise or something? Or
yeah.
I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, you don't really know, and because it's a ride, and until you actually see the first or hear first drafts of the script, you don't really know what they're going to try. And Pirates of the Caribbean, who would have guessed that that was going to work? Country Bears Jamboree, who would have guessed that they would even try to make a movie out of that? So Disney does this because they have this brand established. Everybody's been on the ride, not just people from Florida. Everybody in the world knows what the Jungle Cruise is. And they want to do something else with that brand because they already own the property.
They ought to do a movie, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. They need to bring that ride back, by the way.
Yeah, well, they have room on that park to do stuff like that. I don't know why they took it down in the first place, but they move things around. I mean, Star Tours is gone, and now it's coming back. We hear in L.A. and the California or Pasadena Disneyland. So you just don't know what they're going to do. I mean, they retire things for a while and then they bring them back. But Mr. Toad, that's beloved by a lot of people.
Why do you think Tom Hanks hasn't done a comedy in a long time? Because he was very successful with that early in his career, and he hasn't done one in ages.
Well, Charlie Wilson's War was very funny. He brings the funny even when he's playing something kind of serious. I mean, except for that Road to Perdition, you're hard-pressed to think of a Tom Hanks movie which doesn't have a little bit of a light touch to it, even Philadelphia. But he's got one coming out called Larry Crown, which he co-stars in with Julia Roberts, which looks pretty funny. And so he's probably looking to do a few funny things before he's well over 50 and not really, part of that funny, young, funny audience that they're looking for. He
is Roger Moore. You can read all of his stuff at his wildly popular Frankly My Dear blog at OrlandoSentinel.com. Raj, thanks for being on for your weekly visit at the movies.
Thank you, guys.